Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back again, Twin Peaks, Season 3, Episode 3. And it was an interesting episode overall. I'll comment a little bit more on my overall feelings on it at the end of the review, but yeah, I'll just kind of get started and go from the beginning, and we'll start from there. So basically, like at the end of the second episode, Cooper is kind of falling through either space or interdimensional space. It's once he's gone outside of the Black Lodge, it's kind of hard to tell, where he is exactly. If this is, a completely separate, reality, or if it's connected somehow to the Black Lodge. It's kind of hard to say. But he eventually ends up falling into this kind of pinkish cloud, almost like smoke, and ends up on the kind of the one of the balconies or something of this giant metal building, looking out over which seems to be an endless ocean. And going inside, we have kind of a reddish tint around the place. I'm not sure if that's alluding to anything that red has to do with the Black Lodge. With, of course, a woman in a red dress, or a darker red dress, who seems to have had her eyes removed, or something like that. He tries to communicate with her. She seems able to sense his presence, but is unable to speak loud enough to be heard. At least I couldn't comprehend what she was trying to say. And eventually, we see some kind of electronic device or some kind of machinery or something that's into the wall that Cooper notices, and it has the number 15 on it. And then we start to hear a kind of a thumping, like pounding against like metal, which at least seems to be, the hinting at that somebody or something is trying to break into that room. The woman is trying to, telling him to be quiet. He goes over to the thing in the wall, and she kind of goes over there and is warning him against it, making these kind of weird slashing noise, kind of motions. And the sound effect of it actually reminded me of the when the two were killed from that being that came out of the glass box. It had a similar sound effect to it. So maybe, and we did see that Cooper was, at least at the end of the last episode, for momentarily in that glass box. So I'm not sure if there's any connection there or not, but that was just my initial impressions of what it reminded me of. So basically, she leads him out of that room up into what ends up being the top of this kind of this box, this metal box that's floating in space, with this kind of big metal, almost looks like a thimble or type weird thing on it. And she goes over to the side of it and slams that electrical switch down, which ends up launching her off into space. But it does stop that crashing noise, that pounding on the walls or whatever it is. And Cooper looks down, and lo and behold, we see Major Briggs's disembodied head kind of floating through through space, and he says Blue Rose. And if you do recall, Blue Rose was mentioned specifically in the movie Fire Walk with Me, in reference to a particular item or subject matter that was kind of top secret under wraps. And of course, we know that it ended up being that ring with the owl insignia on it that we saw in Owl Cave, or the petroglyph, or whatever you want to call it. So now Dale returns back to the room, and now you can see that everything as far as the lighting is concerned has kind of gone back to normal. And there's not any weird tint. The kind of the stop motion effect movement that Dale and the woman without the eyes was doing has ceased. And now it's, like I said, it's more of a normal type room. And if you look on the wall mechanism, now you see a number 3. Remember, previously it was 15, and 315 is Dale's room number for the Great Northern, as you'll see on the green key tag that are for his room key. So that has some significance. It may just be reference, coincidental, but I doubt it. And on the couch, looks like very familiar person, at least the same actress that played Ronette Pulaski in the original run. And basically, Dale goes over to the mechanism on the wall, which we will eventually see, or that you already know if you watched it, that it's basically like a giant wall socket. And we kind of hear a little bit of a noise going on that reminds me very much so of the noise that the arm, or the midget in the red suit made when he was when we saw those in Twin Peaks Firewalk with Me, going along those power lines, coming down to the trailer park. And I think that's basically supposed to be a bit of a nod at that, because this transmission or movement through via electrical means seems to be a way in which those within the lodge can travel around. So I think that's kind of what this is basically symbolizing. It's a way of means which they can travel. And she basically says to him, that is the gal that's Ronette, that is played by Ronette Pulaski's actress. I don't know if she's supposed to just be there, in a different role, because there's no communication between them to acknowledge that they recognize one another. But she basically says that when he goes, he'll already be there, which at least at that moment doesn't make all that much sense. And that he'd better hurry because her mother is coming. And I'm not sure if the mother. I don't think the mother is a reference to the person that was there with that missing the eyes beforehand, because she seemed to also be warning against something. I mean, obviously, if she was the source of the danger, then she would have probably attacked him. The mother could be possibly that being that entered into the glass box that came through and killed the guy that was in that gal that were watching and drink coffee. That may be why the first woman in the room was doing all those those hand motions and making that kind of that noise like a knife slicing or whatever. So that could be the mother. I'm not quite sure yet. We don't have enough really to go on, though. The face and the mutilated face of the original woman kind of was more leaning towards kind of that ghoulish look of that being that was in the glass box that came through, but speculation right now. So basically, Cooper leaves through that outlet, kind of a cool effect sucking him through, and at the same time we see his Bob in the doppelganger is driving, and he's starting to kind of feel weird, almost like he's getting a little bit dizzy and woozy. And we see the cigarette lighter on the vehicle, and it's glowing a particular color of green, and it's in a ring-shaped circle, and that looks very similar to the color of the actual owl petroglyph symbol ring that we see this character Dougie Jones wearing. So I think there's a connection there with that. I think that's supposed to be a symbolism of that. Because that ring is the blue rose. So and Dougie basically we see him with a prostitute girlfriend or whatever, and his arm's kind of gone numb, and he's wearing the ring on that hand, or on the hand of the arm that's gone numb, which we also remember Teresa Banks in the movie. Same thing happened to her before she died, and some reason, or at least unexplained now. We find out that Dougie Jones was quote to Mike when they simultaneously Bob in the Cooper doppelganger in the car starts to get sick. Dougie Jones gets sick simultaneously, so there's something going on. And when Bob crashes the vehicle, we see, of course, the curtains to the Black Lodge kind of, just appearing almost kind of transparent in front of his vehicle as he's staring, and we see Dougie Jones, at least he sees Dougie Jones sitting in one of the chairs from the waiting room. And Mike basically tells this person, Dougie Jones is basically kind of like a fat kind of, kind of looks like, kind of goofy version of Cooper, and he was manufactured for a purpose that now has been fulfilled. So apparently, I mean, obviously, there's some kind of physical connection or supernatural connection between Dougie and Bob's inhabiting of Cooper, and his doppelganger, because obviously they're getting sick at the same time, so there's some connection. And so basically, the Dougie Jones, which I'm assuming is another doppelganger, which apparently the ring, I'm assuming the ring allows the creation or inhabiting of other people, because that was kind of what the gift of the ring was, at least to Teresa Banks and to Laura. They basically wanted to become them. That was what kind of Laura alluded to, that Bob wanted to be inside her, wanted to be her. So I don't know if Dougie was just a normal person, everyday person, and then was marked by Bob for whatever reason as a doppelganger, or a potential or person he could inhabit. I don't know. There's a lot of questions get raised there on how Dougie was manufactured, because I'm assuming it didn't mean he merely was an entity created out of thin air, but then maybe he was. More questions, like I said, more questions than answers in this episode. Some weird stuff going on. So yeah, so basically Dougie goes to the lodge. Like I said, he served his purpose. He basically kind of shrinks and implodes into himself. The ring falls off. Mike takes the ring, and Dougie ends up, at least what's left of him, being this little golden bead or ball. It's like a ball bearing, but it's kind of golden color. And lo and behold, Cooper exits out through the wall socket and takes his place. So maybe, assuming he was manufactured for the purpose of swapping spots with Dale so that Dale could escape and get into the lodge, or get out of the lodge into the real world. And because of that entity that was connected with, I'm assuming it had been connected with Bob somehow, was destroyed, Bob had some very violent side effects happen to him. He's throwing up all this nasty stuff, this whatever the heck it is, and to the point where when the police arrive on the scene of the accident, one of them gets just near it, and it becomes extremely sick. So it must be that whatever he was throwing up is some kind of otherworldly matter within his body. Not like ectoplasm or some kind of weird thing, but it's there's something unique about it. It's not kind of a normal substance that someone would just throw up all of a sudden. So yeah, basically Dougie Jones is kind of a scumbag as far as I can tell. He's apparently seems like he owes somebody enough money to want to take out a hit on him or get rid of him. But that doesn't succeed, because we've got a convenient speed bump that keeps Agent Cooper from getting in the crosshairs. So basically now we've got Cooper who's out in the world. People think that somehow this is Dougie Jones, even though he all of a sudden got lost a bunch of weight, is wearing a nice black suit, has a different haircut, and this prostitute all of a sudden thinks it's the same guy, which I guess you got to go with it. Initially, I thought it would have been kind of, at least in that part, if they just kept Dougie Jones as a something that Cooper could inhabit, like Bob inhabits the people. That's what I thought it was initially going to be, that he'd be walking around in that guy's body, but he wouldn't know who the hell he was. But nope, that isn't the case. So yeah, he gets dropped off at eventually at the casino. Basically, this is Dale Cooper, who has no clue. He's kind of in a catatonic state. He can function and walk around and sense things, but he's basically he's completely clueless about most anything else. So yeah, he goes into the casino and becomes Mr. Jackpots, and which to me, I think that, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm not that part of this wasn't all that thrilled about. We get a kind of a throwback scene for at the sheriff's department, where Andy, Lucy, and Hawk are trying to figure out what it is about his heritage that's going to let them solve the case. And Lucy confides that she ate one of the chocolate bunnies that Laura had been taken as evidence way back when, so she feels guilty about that. But so it's more of those awkward, kind of uncomfortable, weird conversations that you expect from David Lynch films and from the Twin Peaks. So it was kind of a nice revisit to that. And then we've got Dr. Jacoby spraying a bunch of shovels gold with his kind of little ingenious little device, assembly kind of line device he made with some old bike wheels and stuff. I don't know why he's painting them gold. I'm sure there will be something relevant to that. Otherwise, it's going to be just like, what the hell is this? But it's kind of funny. Dr. Jacoby's just a weirdo. I mean, obviously he doesn't have his Hawaiian motif going anymore, so maybe he wants to. Maybe he's now into gold mining, prospecting. He wants to move to Alaska or something. Hard to say. So, like I said, Cooper goes to the casino. He starts seeing this kind of Black Lodge curtain and flooring, surrounded by fire. Fire walk with me. Above all of the slot machines that are set to win a jackpot. So it's kind of a funny scene. I think it drags on a little too long. And then you get this little old lady who ends up becoming his best buddy because he keeps telling her where the jackpots are going to be. Yeah, I mean, it was funny, but like I said, it didn't need to. I think it could have been shortened a bit. Then we finally get to more serious matters. We get to FBI headquarters. We've got our good buddy Albert, and we've got Gordon Cole, both definitely looking a little older, getting up there in age. And we have a new member of the team that is going to be helping everybody out. Assuming, I think she was kind of mentioned in the description of the show as a whole when it initially read the kind of the episode, the basic description. Talked about a new FBI agent was going to go in and investigate the past of what happening with Dale Cooper, and that's Agent Tamara Preston. So we get a debriefing about the attack that took place in New York, and that we see just that one still image within the glass box of that being that came through and eviscerated those two young people. And then Gordon gets a call, supposedly from Agent Dale Cooper. So I was hoping, I think a lot of people were wondering if, Dale finally figured out to call from the casino, but I think that was kind of wishful thinking on all of our parts. So yeah, we've gotten through episode 3. Started out really cool. The Dougie Jones stuff, was kind of, it was cool how they, we learned something new about the powers of the Black Lodge, or at least what there's capable of being more than one doppelganger, more than one host or whatever that can be accessed. But in this case, it was kind of a swap. It was kind of a 1-for-1. Cooper was switched out with this Dougie Jones person who was manufactured. Like, hopefully we'll get a little bit more information on that in coming episodes. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed feelings on Cooper being out in the world, at least as he is, because I'm assuming it is actually Agent Dale Cooper in the flesh outside of the lodge, walking around. He just doesn't know who he is or much of anything else. So yeah, that I was kind of hoping more of, because like this said, the beginning of the episode was really cool. I mean, it was this kind of bizarre dreamlike or extra dimensional type, expansion upon what can take place outside of the reality that everyone else is existing in. And I think exploring that aspect of it just would, as we go along, would be a much greater service to the show and to the lore, I think, as opposed to having Cooper out in the world, as Mr. Jackpots, Dougie Jones. That's what I was, at least my initial anticipation was, that Cooper would be kind of working through this otherworldly, realm, kind of moving along, kind of on his own quest of sorts, or trying to figure things out and uncover things, while the those in the human world, his friends, are looking for Bob. But now it's we've got him out there, and I'm like I said, I'm kind of have mixed feelings about that. Them taking it that way, especially when he's just kind of the goofy scene where he's walking around winning all the jackpots and stumbling around. He almost reminds me of the old waiter at the Great Northern that Albert named or dubbed Senor Drool Cup. He's kind of walking around with that same absent-mindedness. And I don't know. Like I said, I hope that only serves for a certain amount of time and then kind of gets wrapped up. Because I don't know if I really want to spend too much more time with Dougie Jones. His character just kind of going around, wandering about. It seems like kind of a waste of time, but we'll see. That would be my only remark on the episode as a negative, is that it's more folk. I mean, they've only got so many episodes. You've got plenty of content you can pack in. So hopefully, further episodes, they'll start to narrow it down more to what really matters. I mean, the funny comic relief stuff is there, but like I said, we had the scene with Hawk, Lucy, and Andy, and that was good enough. And then Dr. Jacoby doing whatever he was doing. Yeah. Oh, and then also one last thing. I remember the drug addict. While the kid was watching that guy in that pretty cool looking Chevelle plant a bomb on Dougie's car, that gal was yelling 119. I'm not sure if that'll have any significance whatsoever, but kind of weird things that happen like that. You never can discount as possibly not having a some relevance in future episodes or whatnot. But anyway, and it seems like, I guess, episodes are going to be ending with a performance from some different bands. This is kind of like a throwback to the 50s almost, kind of interesting. I mean, it's not my cup of tea as far as the styling, but it was a cool song. I mean, it's kind of cool the way to end the episode. So yeah, that's episode 3 of season 3. Hit and miss. Wasn't the best. Definitely was kind of a letdown compared to the first 2 episodes, which I think, but we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I have already watched episode 4, and so I will start working on that and get these up probably about the same time. And I'll see everybody in episode 4. So take it easy until then.